Hello and welcome to Grammar Skills Module 3. In this module we're going to talk about how we can avoid sentence fragments. So we'll discuss what a sentence fragment is, what an independent clause or a complete sentence is, and how we can distinguish one from the other and can avoid making grammatical mistakes. So the definition of a sentence fragment is it lacks one of the following three aspects of components. It would not have a subject, it would not have a predicate or a verb, or it would not express a complete thought. Right, question for you. Is the following a fragment? He ate. He ate is not a fragment. Okay? It is an independent clause and can therefore stand alone as a sentence because it has the subject, he, and the predicate or verb, which is ate. So yes, we are lacking some context. We don't necessarily know who he is or what he ate from just this one sentence, but in grammatical terms, it is an independent clause which can stand alone. Okay? Also, just remember that sentences are generally part of a larger text that provides the necessary context for us to understand what's going on here. All right, let's look at another example. So, is the following a complete sentence or is it a fragment? Although he ate the ham and cheese sandwich his mother had made for him earlier that day. That is a fragment. So if we ignore the word although, the subordinating conjunction at the beginning of it for a moment and look just at the rest, then he ate the ham and cheese sandwich his mother had made for him earlier that day would be an independent clause and could stand alone as a sentence. However, the moment we add a subordinating conjunction, and although is one of them, to the beginning of that sentence, it becomes a dependent clause. So it's an introductory clause, but it does not express a complete thought. So what we need to do now is to add an independent clause to make it a complete sentence. So one way to do it, the example at the bottom here, although he ate the ham and cheese sandwich his mother had made for him earlier that day, comma, he was still hungry. So the sentence needs to add with the independent clause, which he was still hungry is. Okay? And remember that we always, if we begin a sentence with the dependent clause and we end it with the independent clause, we need a comma in between those two. All right, so on the following exercise slides, you will see a phrase or clause. I would like you to determine if it is an independent clause or a complete sentence, in other words. If it is a fragment, please revise it to make it a complete sentence, either by adding an independent clause at the end, or if there's just a component missing that would fix it, add that component. Okay? And as always, if you're watching this video, just pause it, give yourself a little bit more time than the 5 seconds that I built into this to make the necessary revisions. And then following each exercise slide will be an answer slide. So there, you will find the possible revision and an explanation for it. So let's begin with exercise 1. Is the phrase or clause below a fragment or independent clause? If it is a fragment, make it a complete sentence by adding an independent clause. Because of the blizzard. Number 1, because of the blizzard is a fragment. And the main problem, again, is that it begins with a subordinating conjunction. It also lacks a verb. So a possible revision could be, because of the blizzard, we stayed home. So again, we need to add the independent clause, we stayed home. We need a subject and a verb. And again, you're separating the dependent clause at the beginning of the sentence from the independent clause at the end of the sentence with a comma. Exercise 2. She walked. Is it an independent clause? Is it a fragment? And what do you need to do to fix it if necessary? She walked is an independent clause. Again, it has a subject, she, it has a predicate or verb, walked, and it does not begin with a subordinating conjunction. So we're good. Exercise 3. Looking forward to seeing you. So is it an independent clause or a fragment? And what do we need to do to make it an independent clause? Answer 3. Looking forward to seeing you is a fragment because it does not have a subject. So it is not necessary to add an independent clause here. The only thing we really need to do to make it an independent clause is to add the subject that we're currently lacking. So a potential revision here would be I'm or I am looking forward to seeing you. And that will fix it. Exercise 4. When we realized that the show was sold out, is it an independent clause or a fragment? What do we need to do to fix it if it is a fragment? Answer 4. When we realized that the show was sold out is a fragment, and it is a fragment because it begins with the subordinating conjunction when. Okay? So a possible revision could be in here we do need to add an independent clause to make it a complete thought. When we realized that the show was sold out, comma, we went home. Again, dependent clause at the beginning means that we always have to separate it from the independent clause at the end with a comma. Exercise 5. Of course she knew. Is it an independent clause or a fragment? And if it's a fragment, what do we need to do to fix it? Answer 5. Of course she knew is an independent clause. It has a subject, she, it has a predicate or verb, knew, and it does not begin with a subordinating conjunction. So of course really just adds emphasis here without actually affecting the sentence in grammatical terms. One thing I briefly want to address, because in your reading you will come across published work that contains fragments. So journalists, bloggers, fiction writers quite frequently use fragments. Okay? So again, these are professional writers who know the rules, but they're breaking the rules for a stylistic choice. For example here, no one thought Bethany could finish the marathon. 26 miles was just too far. But she was determined to prove us wrong, no matter what. And she did. Okay? All right, so yes, no matter what is technically a fragment. Okay? And she did, on the other hand, is an independent clause. She did, we have a subject and a verb. It begins with a conjunction, but it's a coordinating conjunction, not a subordinating one. Okay? So the sentence is an independent clause, and if you notice, it is also a paragraph by itself. So just to remember, a sentence can also be a paragraph. Now, I wanted to address why certain professional writers may actually employ fragments for stylistic reasons. The important thing I would like you to remember is that before we can break the rules, we have to master them first. Okay? So in formal documents, whether they're academic papers, business documents, scientific, or any kind of professional writing documents, I would, as a general rule, avoid the use of fragments. All right, So that's it for avoiding fragments. In the next grammar module, we're sort of looking at the opposite of fragments, and those are fused sentences. So I look forward to seeing you then. Thank you.